Right, with that everybody, it's now 1 o'clock, so I will declare the meeting open, because we are now already connected to the live stream. So welcome to council members, member of the public, those who have joined us via live stream, and Emma is up there too, so welcome everybody. And before we move any further, we will move to the cake here, and Councillor Neil is going to do that. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was lovely. Right, so moving on to apologies. We have no apologies received and everybody is here. So we will move on to the declarations of interest. So there are no changes to the interest register noted. So the next part is, before we get into the actual proceedings of the meeting, I do want to touch on our May Council meeting, which at the moment is down for Thursday the 23rd of May. I'm hoping you're all aware of it, but we've got Honourable Shane Jones coming to Blackpool Community Hall on Thursday 23rd of May. It's at 3:30 to 5:30. He's talking about his vision for the minerals sector. That does have a lot of relevance to us here and for our adjoining neighbours up the coast. And I, for one, would like to go. I think there's a few here that would like to attend it. So what I would like to know is whether we move the meeting back to the following Thursday at 1 o'clock, as opposed to bringing it earlier in the morning of that same day and making what could be quite a bit of unnecessary pressure on everybody's time, and also cutting people out from being able to attend. I am suggesting the 30th. I think that sort of is going to meet with most people and allow them to go to the presentation of Mr. Jones and also attend the council meeting, as opposed to being brought forward into the morning of that same day. So, sorry?
Wouldn't miss it, the quiz.
No, so this is the thing, you know, it's, I don't know whether you're being facetious or not. Sorry. So with that, so can I have a mover and second to please resolve that the May meeting of council take place on the 30th of May at 1 p.m, please. Councillor Burden, thank you very much. Do I have a seconder to that? Councillor Casson, thank you very much. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you everybody for that. So we have noted that as a change for next month, which allows us to ensure we operate within our judicial requirements and notifications, etc. around council meetings. Oh, for Blackpool. Well, if we go as a collective group, we might just fare quite well. And I do believe that.
Also, I won't be able to be the only one in that day. I was going to attend council by Zoom, so I won't be at Blackpool.
Right. Okay. Not so much be there to agree on anything, Councillor Neil, it's more to be there to actually listen to, you know, what he's talking about for the future, which will impact us in one way or another. So thank you for that. Right, so thank you everybody for that agreement. So next on the agenda is item 4, urgent items not on the agenda. We do have a late addition to the agenda, which is the annual Local Government New Zealand membership subscription. So that has been added to the agenda. So can I have a mover or a seconder, please, so that we may resolve that the item be accepted as a late agenda item for the open section of the meeting. Councillor Neil, thank you very much. Do I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Phelps, thank you. All in favour? Carried. Thank you everybody for that. Right, moving on to item 5, minutes of meetings. We have the ordinary council meeting minutes of the 28th of March. The resolution is that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 28th of March 2024 be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder to that, please? Just that side of the table. Councillor Peterman and Councillor Collette, thank you very much. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. And I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed ordinary council meeting minutes of 28th March 2024. So next up on the agenda is the action list from our Chief Executive, Simon. Oh, he's up there. Sorry. Simon, thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, and good afternoon, councillors. We only have one action item on our action list. It is the ongoing review of council officers in terms of its earthquake prone status. Confirmed that as of Monday, both geotech work will be done on intrusive maintenance within the structures of the building and also external ground testing. So that will be completed Monday and tidy up will be done later in the week. Other than that, we've done some minor waterproofing work for Paku Waitara to make sure it doesn't slip backwards, so that work has been completed this month as well. Happy to take any questions, Your Worship.
Thank you, Simon, for that. So on that, we can expect that report to come back to us when? So
it requires the detail of that being done by the engineers. So we've contracted Elliott Sinclair. So an outcome of that review, plus also any technical work, could take a bit longer than what we might be able to get into May, but I can't guarantee it. It'll be as soon as we can get it to council. Obviously, that conversation is part of the discussions in terms of future of council headquarters as part of the submission process. So we'll bring back to council as soon as possible. Any, I suppose, major concerns would be the only major thing that we need to understand.
Yes, because it's a narrative that we need to be on top of because the time is ticking by. By May, we're 1 month or halfway through this year, and we started this conversation last year. So the other thing too with the geotech work that's been done, that will also be assessing the condition of the foundations to this building, because that's of course imperative to anything that's done above ground. So that's good to know. Does anybody have any questions for the CEO, please? Yes, Paul.
Through Your Worship, so the seismic testing is for both this building and Paku Waitara?
Yes, the geotech work it is. Yes.
They'll be done at the same time?
Yes, next Monday. Just Your Worship, just like to highlight that council offices will be closed on Monday because of the work. It's quite obviously intrusive and very noisy in terms of the work they're proposing to do. Council will still be operating, but remotely. And the eyesight, we are looking to relocate across the road as per the last time we had to close council.
Anything further? Sorry, was there someone here? Sorry, Paul.
Just one further question. Has Elliott Sinclair been provided with the WSP report?
Yes, they have.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Unrelated to this action item, but Simon, can we put the Hokitika Gorge Bridge on here so us as councillors in our community can be kept up to speed with that process? Obviously, we're all wanting to see that open ready for summer this year, as was our commitment last year. And I just want to keep an eye on that as the many people interested in that in the community.
So you're asking that the Hokitika Gorge be put onto the action list?
Correct.
Yes, correct. Okay.
Yeah, if the council wishes that to be put on there as an open action to be updated. Obviously, we can put it as part of my CE's update in May anyway, in terms of current progress.
I think probably it belongs on the action list because it is something that has been in action to go forward. So,
if I may, through the chair, sorry, I've lost track of where we're at with it. Is the idea that once that bridge is done up, DOC will take ownership of it, or are we going to hold that asset on our books?
It's a discussion that's not on the agenda, but it is something that we need to tidy up because it's still an open end. It is, and it is very much so. So maybe we look at bringing that on to next month's agenda item for an update, but also some clarification on those points.
It's just that bridge and gorge is on Kiora magazine, it's
Mm.
used
Yes,
worldwide to
it is.
promote not just the coast, but New Zealand, and it should be a taxpayer expense, not a ratepayer expense in my view, but, yeah.
No.
I didn't quite catch the first part of the conversation.
Oh, just in terms of whether eventually we'll sort of adopt that orphan out to dock rather than maintaining ownership of it as our bridge, really, given it's servicing a dock track and a dock car park and everything else, is that the?
Just to highlight, that was the original intention, obviously, DOC also have to go through their process of accepting that as an asset and ongoing liability. So we have had provisional conversations with the department about this.
So maybe it's something we bring into your report next month then,
Yeah.
as opposed to the action list, that we have an update on that, but also where we're sitting currently with that situation, and then what work needs to be done regarding that going forward. So we're all very clear on that,
I'd like it to be on the action list ongoing as well.
right?
Yeah, I'd support that, absolutely.
So the consensus on the table, it stays on the action list, okay?
And we can give more detailed first update for the next meeting and then go forward.
Right.
And just to point out, the Hoki Gorge track, that project out there, it's a joint project with the council and the Department of Conservation. Like the car park out there it's on council land, and so it's just not a dock project.
No, that's quite correct, but there have been discussions in the past on future ownership
Yes.
and management of, so that's part of what we're saying now to Simon, that we want to get our heads around where that's sitting currently and what other discussions need to occur going forward.
Yes.
Just to clarify, Your Worship, the intention was to close all the road within that, I suppose, attraction, to then pass all the road reserve that's there as well across to the department at the same time as the asset. It wouldn't take an asset if it's still set on our road reserve.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry. Just another point, that both iwi are very strong sort of partners in that project too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Simon, you're quite happy to have that on the action list, plus you'll bring us up to date with that for the next
It's a
council
monthly
meeting.
update, no problem.
Thank you very much for that. Does anybody have any other questions for Simon regarding his report? No? Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Resolve that the updated action list from the Chief Executive be received. Councillor Phelps, thank you. I've seen Councillor Glett, thank you very much. All in favour? Carried, thank you. So next on the list is presentations. And first up, we have the transportation update from Carl's there, from Carl Jackson, Transportation Manager. Speak on this report. Thank you, Carl.
Afternoon, Worship Councillors. So relatively brief update this time. Just talking on a few subjects that are hot on the list at the moment. Our present National Land Transport Program funding bid and implications of the new draft government policy statement on ROTA. There's as yet unconfirmed resale list for the spring season. This is something we're starting to work through now. With an update on our footpath list, we're sort of getting on that. We'll update on parking strategy and speed management, which closed for submissions on the 16th, Tuesday, I think it was. So there's a few things that we've identified that are going to be interesting going forward, possibly challenging in some areas. So some of the major things that are coming out of the government policy statement is the new potholes activity class. It's not really a new activity class as such, but what it is it's a grouping of a number of activities that we always do anyway. And those activities being sealed pavement maintenance, unsealed pavement maintenance, routine drainage, unsealed road movement, sealed resurfacing, and so on. So the idea behind that is these are areas where the government see the investment being attained in terms of preventing premature failure of our pavements and improving the networks as such. Where in past we've had an amount of flexibility to transfer money from one activity class to another to offset any overs and unders in these activities class. That group of activities is completely locked. Nothing can be taken out of it and used in anything else. Don't know if we can put stuff into it if we have unders in some of our other general maintenance activities. That's something that needs to be explored a little bit further. But it basically just restricts, puts a restriction on what you can do with that activity. So walking and cycling has been one that has been a bit of a change in that, what we're seeing is that there's only investment to be made where there's a clear benefit for increasing economic growth or demonstrated volumes of cyclists and pedestrians, which for us is going to be very challenging, given that we don't have a high population. So there are some projects that we've got flagged for footpath improvements and, you know, pedestrian development in our low-cost activities, which may not now qualify for approved funding, or it may require us to go through a bit more effort to improve the business case. Could be challenging. I mean, it's the old thought process behind it with regards to footpaths and things is if you could see there was a bit of a need for it. In some cases you might see a worn track and a grass berm generally going to give you an indication that there's footpath or foot traffic on that. That's a reasonably easy justification for putting a footpath in. Others have adopted the build it and they will come approach. That's really sort of out now. So you've got to actually show that there's an actual need for it, which for us may be challenging. But we'll have to see what happens when it's finalised, and I'm sure there'll be rules and ways forward created around that. So that's going to be challenging. The footpath and cycleway maintenance could be compromised as well. There was indications in the policy that potentially our financial assistance rates for those activities could be varied. So we can have a standard financial assistance rate across the board for everything, but there might be some specific activities like footpaths and cycleways that they might actually reduce that assistance rate. So we might end up having to fund a little bit more to be able to do what we do. It could be that they only approve an amount less. Don't really still know what the outcome of that's going to be. That's quite challenging. The speed management changes, and I'll talk about that as well. The blanket speed limit reductions that have been done in some places around the country, they will be looking at reversing some of those, but the qualifier in that is where it's safe to do so. So they will still have to prove that it's actually safe to lift the speed limit back up to where it was, given that they've already reduced it. That might be an interesting conversation that they have with others. I don't think that will really affect us too much, because we've had good public support for a lot of the changes that we've made so far, and they've been made with good reason. So shouldn't matter to us too much. How that's going to affect our speed management plan is still a little bit uncertain. There's still some things that are being developed in that sense, particularly around schools. I'll talk about it later. Safe.
Tom, do you want questions through your report, or would you sooner we wait till after?
No, well, you could ask questions during, yeah, if you've got something.
I was going to jump in before you change slides, but you've gone, so it's not important. In terms of demonstrated volumes, obviously hard for us to prove as a small place, but for people on a bike is 1% of our 5% of population riding their bike to work sort of thing. Has that been tested as to what number as a percentage or what that looks like to actually test that before?
No, we don't know what the figures are going to be. Presumably there's going to be some criteria set or what a demonstrable figure is. And you'd have to look at what the population base is relative to that figure as well. So again, these are, because it's in the policy statement, that's fine, but there's still a background of work that needs to be developed around that to actually set the criteria a little bit better. And we just won't know until they've done it.
Otherwise, she's fairly subjective.
Well, it can be, yeah, that's right.
Is there, through the chair, is there a minimum standard you have to adhere to once you decide something's a cycle lane? Like, for example, we've got some very wide streets here, quite comfortable to bike along, as far as I'm concerned, as a strip of paint. Fine, or do you then need to have some sort of barriers separating bikes from traffic? Like, once you take that on, does it become quite a cross to carry or not?
Oh, no, not necessarily. It depends largely on the volume of traffic that you're dealing with. If you're in a large metro, you might go a little bit further and put in some physical separation. With lower traffic volumes and straight roads, quite often just a paint line is quite sufficient at keeping the traffic out there. There's a number of ways we can tackle that. It's reasonably good guidelines.
The lack of being specific can also potentially work for us. The lack of being specific with the numbers, demonstrated volumes and so on, that could also work for us because we can say, well, this is actually a large percentage or whatever.
Well, we don't know which way it's going to work at this stage, and because they haven't developed that range of guidelines, it's just a wait and see. And hopefully we can get some stuff out of it, fingers crossed. And we don't know what our funding is going to be based on what they've said. So these are indications of it.
Right. Paul, did you have a question?
Your Worship, there might be an opportunity to, for us to revisit the canary monstrosity.
Yes.
Case. Oh, fantastic.
Right. Right, if you want to,
So, any other questions on the previous one? So moving on to safety, one of the other, what we're seeing now is that there'll be an increase, desire to increase road policing and coordinated road safety promotion. Rather than what we've been doing in terms of traffic calming devices are often quite requested by the public. We've implemented a number of them. Again, we've got items that we're identifying in our program for the CBD for raised pedestrian crossings. That type of treatment, funding wise, is targeted for the out. So we may not get funding for those activities either. If we still want to carry on with those, it might mean that we need to fund it ourselves with that financial assistance rate on it. So,
can I ask, did you put forward a submission on council's behalf for this when it was out? And did you, in that submission, indicate that where this is written basically for the cities as such, due to our population base, did you put forward that those calming measures that we favour here actually work for our population base and our streets as opposed to where the government's heading with this?
yeah, it was one of the areas that we identified in the submission. There was some good stuff and then there was some bad stuff that went through. So there was a unified one that we had for the three councils to address concerns with as well.
So there was an element of pushback that this didn't actually fit our region. It may be fine in a city, but it's not that applicable to here.
From memory, yes, I think it was. I have to reread it.
A lot of those would be relevant to cities as well in the urban.
Oh, I'm saying, but it's basically written for the cities as opposed to these areas here, like we have with our population base, where calming measures in our CBD work for us with our population base and growth, whereas they're insufficient in the likes of Christchurch and Wellington.
Well, a lot of those ones are very relevant to Christchurch and Wellington as well, so I would hope to see them thinking out across the board. I think it's really disappointing. No, I'm not saying that we're that different, and that those who work here, they also work in the other places as well.
So, a little bit difficult to read, but that's the long list. A little summary of that in terms of what we're looking at. We targeted 26.5 kilometres of road for resurfacing in the coming season. The estimated cost of that is about $2 million. That's subject to our final approved allocation for the funding that comes through later on in the year. As yet, the goalposts keep moving on that, so we're not even sure when that'll come through. I think the last indication was somewhere around September, which is still very late in the piece. But those previous listed roads are ones that we are targeting. Probably easier to read than the hard copy from the presentation. Just to give you a little bit of execution on their work.
Through the question, just a question, Carl, regarding funding approval in September. It's obviously quite late in the piece considering resale will start reasonably quickly after that. So we're confident we'll be able to utilise all that fund in the summer program.
Yeah, well, the program won't finish until season cools down enough. We generally can seal out to about April in the following year. So, and past that 26 kilometres, not a huge amount. But we've been able to achieve that quite successfully. Footpath works. So what we've got to do at the moment is carry out a full resurvey of all of our footpaths. We did that last 3 years ago, and that's what we've got targeted now. So we start rolling that out and do those inspections, make that program. Again, we don't know how big it's going to be until we know what the approved funding rate's going to be, but we'll scope it to suit the size of the budget that's available. Again, it'll be a worst first basis, so that's the process we're getting through. We're getting through some of the development with what we've been doing. So just a quick update. We will be putting together an engagement package in June, largely looking at what we're faced with here, which is a number of minor changes to the parking layout, being buses and camper vans primarily. So that's to give the public a little bit of time to recover from all of the other consultations we've done, and hopefully we might get some reasonable feedback from it. Not overly major in terms of what we're looking at changing. The biggest change is probably the positioning of the bus stops, and that's something we need to identify the companies involved and bring them into the picture as well and communicate that desire to change.
There's very limited disabled parking marked on that map, and not in what I would regard as being appropriate places for the disabled.
The disabled parking.
Yeah. It was actually really hard without really expanding that up seriously to
So
see them on the screen. It's a wee bit different.
Yeah.
But on the presentation, it was actually really hard without zooming it exponentially to actually really see where everything was.
Okay.
I was a little bit concerned on the disability sector as far as where they were based and how many we had, but like I said, I can actually see a couple of marks there now that I couldn't see before.
Yeah, so there's one outside the Western Medical Centre. We've got one just outside our office. Well, two outside our offices. One in Wells Street and one just below us. Yeah. There's one in Oh no, that's Camberley. Sorry. There's one outside the chemist. There's one outside the bookshop. There's one across the road from supermarket.
Yeah, when I zoomed this, I could not pick them up, whether it's the colour.
Might be the.
But as far as being able to take this out for public consultation on this, we need to make sure that everything is very, very clear
Yeah.
on where those parks and things are, as opposed to being missed.
Yeah, we can certainly highlight those.
Yeah. Please,
Yeah, no, that's fine.
thank you. Thank you.
The regional speed management plan, so that did close on the 16th. We had, last count, there was over 60 submissions for our part of the plan. For the western part, yep, just the western part. There was some reasonably good feedback on that. Some quite positive feedback on the stuff around schools. Suggestions of the potentially making some of the schools variable speed limits, and that's in line with what the government's new policy is indicating. They haven't set the policy yet, but there's still scope to review those a little bit further and create some variable zones around the schools. Initially, in particular, the Hoki Primary Westland High Zone is quite a large zone, and when you combine the two, one of the roads gets quite long at that low speed. But again, we do have a sporting facility there which causes traffic pile-ups in the weekends and other times as well. So yeah, there was some good feedback, and we're just processing that now, summarising the results.
Do you consider 60 good, bad, or indifferent for a level of feedback on that?
Given what we've had in the past, early on it was looking quite low. We did have a little surge towards the end. Actually not too bad. We've had more when we've talked about larger changes. But again, it sort of links into people getting a bit tired of having to provide feedback to us for this, that, and other things, and there's probably a bit of that fatigue creeping in. But generally pretty good. I'm quite happy with it. It's likely to be enough to give a good indication for us on where people see things going. Yeah, so quite good feedback on one in particular was the Canary Road. People are quite happy with it. It's faster zone. There was a few that didn't want it to go, but by and large, I think the feedback on that side of things is more of a reduction than anything else.
Radard's gone out and consulted on the speed management plan, the regional one. Any reason why we haven't done the same to get a better consensus through the whole region, being that we are quite a spread out one?
Grandma's done the same way we've done.
They've gone out, they've just been having, so just going out and talking to communities about this plan and what everybody's sentiment is, so that when the submissions come in, they've got a really good sounding on the content and the desire going forward.
I'm not aware of any additional approach that the grade.
I've seen them promoting it in the paper and on their website.
Yeah, the mayor's been out about it. I know
Yes.
in Blackwell where they're considering lowering the whole village.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the whole
They had
village.
a meeting up there with their caravan and what have you.
Yes,
I assume that was led by the mayor.
it was.
Okay. I'm not, look, I don't have the information on why they've done something different. Largely, we've left it to the regional council to lead the process, as was in line with the requirements to look at that.
Tanya is on the committee, so therefore more involved probably.
Yeah.
Carl, just through your worship, Carl, are the submissions coming back to council or the committee reading, or they being dealt with by staff?
We're dealing with it at the moment. We're just summarising the results.
So the summary will come back.
So there'll be a summary.
Thank you.
Right. And Jane,
Lake Canary, is this the right time to discuss that? Because it has been talked about before, but wasn't actually in it.
I asked for it at the committee to be added as well and was told that it wasn't necessary.
Yes, I've certainly got concerns around Lake Canary and speed limits and also Town Road.
I think what we'll do is that this is to do with Carl's report on this, but I support you wholeheartedly on that because there still is the same issues on the Canary, Okarito, Hahau Road that we've seen right through that still haven't been addressed. So can we please bring that, perhaps put that on the agenda for next month, that we have a report on communication that's been held with those communities and or entities and where they're sitting at. Because it's time we got some action and a resolution to these issues
A
going
way to
forward.
progress it. A way to progress it.
Yes, a way to progress it. Because the community, those communities are still waiting, and they've been waiting long enough, so it's time we took some action going forward on that.
So just on that, we have done more traffic counting in that Okarito and Lake Canary or Hands Bay area. The information that came back wasn't particularly different to what we had previously. Certainly there's an option for creating some speed, putting in speed humps, traffic, adjuster bars, that sort of thing in Okarito. But Hands Bay already has 3 in the area. The addition of another one may or may not make a difference. Still unclear.
There are other things also that we're going to talk about there, we're there about the redirection of traffic so it doesn't do the loop around. So there's no cars going right down by the frontage of the lake. So there were other things to talk about as well as speed bumps at Lake Canary.
Okay. Through your worship, the meeting we had 18 months ago with the community from Lake Canary, we were told that council would do some master planning with DOC on the whole area and we would come back with something. This hasn't progressed as far as I'm concerned.
So, and I've actually had a discussion with some of those members from the Canary in particular last week, and they are still concerned that they've had no good solid discussion or progression on the issues. I know that we put it in recently to judge the population of vehicles travelling backwards and forwards. This summer has been different to last summer, and I think that's not the only thing that we should be using to assess requirements in areas. So if we can have this come back to us next month with a report, perhaps we'll send you through a reminder of, send through to Simon a reminder of the points that have been raised. And if we can have that come back to us in a meeting the next month, that would be appreciated. I think that's what everybody's heading to with this. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
That's fine. And I think that was that up, so any other questions?
Through your worship, a couple of questions, just around the Hokitika CBD parking plan. Can we get this loading zone in Wells Street talked about, added to the plan? I know it's an action from the Road Safety Committee, isn't it, Tanka, is that correct?
Yeah.
Is it a time to incorporate it in that plan as well? Have it consulted on by?
Whereabouts are we talking about
And we're talking about down the centre of the street, and we talked about Picton have a loading, I mean, it naturally happens anyway, but it's currently illegal to park there the way people do. So legalising that and having a designated place on the road, I assume the road's wide enough for that. Can we get that included? Because that's not the first time. Thank you, Carl.
That wasn't something that came up in that first conversation last night, but as phase 1, certainly,
Yeah.
we'll be flexible on it.
Thank you.
Just visual barriers.
Yeah.
Lines.
Yellow lines on the road. The second one is just about the reseal program. I just note that this year, this season, there's been a number of reseals where roads haven't been prepared properly, in my opinion, to be resealed. Just some commentary around that and making sure that doesn't happen again.
So there has been a couple of little hiccups. and it's largely communication between our contractor and the resealing contractor. So our contractor drives the resealing program. Ordinarily advise the resealing contractor when the road is ready for sealing. But we did identify there was a couple of small breakdowns in communication this year that we had spoken to them about.
So the one particular issue at Arahura, how does that get resolved? I mean, the road's now a lot narrower than it was, sealed to a lot narrower than it was, and already has a lot of grass growing through the new seal.
That's something we'll have to review further down to see whether
It just seems a huge waste of council's money sealing the road that wasn't, due to be sealed.
We'll include that in the report for next month, if you do that, councillor. Okay, thank you. Anything further for Carl, please? Any further questions? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Carl. So can I have a mover and a seconder, please, that we resolve that the presentation be received from our transportation manager, please? Councillor Neal? Councillor Davidson, sorry. All in favour? Carried, thank you. Thank you very much, Carl. Right, next we have the staff report with the financial performance for March 2024, and welcome Trudy, please.
Good afternoon, your worship councillors. Through your worship, I present the financial report to March 2024. Just got one error to admit to you today. The statement of financial position on page 26 and 27. The title of that reads at 29 February 2024. The figures reflect the 31st of March, so it's just the title that's wrong. That should say the 31st of March 2024. Thank you, I'll take that as read, and through your worship, I'll take any questions.
Questions, please, for Cody. Councillor Kessler.
Bottom of page 23, section 9, other expenses, about halfway down. Land assets were disposed of, de-recognised after we performed a wash-up of our asset register. Land was either merged with other land, deemed abandoned, or transferred to our CCOs. This resulted in a non-cash expense of $158,000. Can we have some commentary on that, please?
Yeah, so this is just something that we have to do at the moment that we're working through, which is reconciling the information that we have, finance has, with what DA has, to make sure that our asset register properly reflects, and as well as the assets that we show in the financial position properly reflects what we actually own. There were some assets within the register that we did not actually own as have to be de-recognised, and that results in a loss on disposal.
So that's a historic clean-up.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, just to reiterate that this is data cleansing for our end of year reports and reconciliations.
Clarification. Any further questions for Cody, please? Councillor Glenn.
So, Your Worship, just general commentary on the increase in revenue and expenses. 5% up on revenue and 8% up on expenses. I just would want some commentary on that.
Yeah, commentary you can find on the next page.
Which is page 23.
Yeah, that's right, page 23. Throughout that page, we've got notes on the major reasons as to why we've got expenditure or revenues that are over or under budget.
The reasons over 25, okay.
The revenue is non-cash.
Councillor Kesson.
Page 28, Cody, grant debtors over 90 days, $497,000, almost $500,000. Is that things we're expecting to see, or is that something we have to deal with not coming in?
Yeah, that relates to, I've got down, just a couple of notes down, grants outstanding. So it's the better off funding for Hokitika swimming pool as well as the better off funding for community halls. So that's pretty much timing of grants, which depends on the stage at which those works are at.
How does it get to 90 days plus overdue from when we invoice, assuming if it's progress payments, we've done the work and then it hasn't been paid by the grantor?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I guess, do we have an issue there whereby we've invoiced something and someone's not paid for it over 90 days in advance? Or over 90 days in arrears, sorry.
Yeah, I believe we have a process in terms of reviewing that, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, in terms, sorry, if it's cutting across the grants and things like swimming pool, we do progress reports and progress payments and invoices out at the appropriate time, and then they come back and pay back. Actually, what you tend to find, the government agencies are pretty okay at paying, so I wouldn't expect to have to start issuing proceedings against government agencies.
It wasn't suggesting to make sure we're going to see that money and not have to carry
I mean, it goes through and they are pretty good at turning stuff around and coming back. Sorry, I was really confused as to who was answering the question.
Through your worship, on page 23, the salary costs are stable. How will that be affected given that we are advertising a brand new management position?
Brand new what position, sorry?
Management position. Customer services manager.
This is reflective of historical budgets as of today.
My question is, has it been factored in? What will be the effect of this? Because it comes as a great surprise to me.
The new management positions, that won't have been included in the budget figures that we have in our comprehensive revenue and expenditure statement. So that will be included in next year's budget.
With respect through your worship, that would need to come back through the council and hasn't been through the council from a new management position. And what happened to the moratorium on new staff positions that was brought in by the last council? It hasn't been rescinded.
So through your worship, there is no moratorium on employing staff.
Through your worship, I would suggest that the staff go back and refer to the minutes.
That's something that we seek
Through your worship, we have reviewed the minutes and there is no resolution to do as stated.
I beg to differ.
If we can have some control here, what we will do is, I know the staff have already checked that, but we will do another review of that to ensure that we've got that correct and advise accordingly on that one.
All right, so that's on that. And so the new management position of customer services, customer services manager is being advertised right now. So what is the effect of that? When was that going to be brought back to the council? Because the advertisement closes tomorrow, I think.
Just so your worship, so the resolution of the last council regarding that appointment of the group manager role was for the CE to find an alternative solution. I have done so.
And bring it back to the council.
It wasn't to bring it back to council.
And it wasn't a check.
No, it's still at a different role.
Absolutely, through your worship, it absolutely was not a carte blanche open resolution to bring that.
I think at the last meeting, it was made very clear that the CE brought it to our notice of the intention to split what had previously been two roles back into those two roles. He did actually not have to bring that back to us for our approval in the first instance. He was actually letting us know what the plan was as far as staffing, in respect of keeping us informed. So as far as that went, council voiced their concern regarding it, and the role was modified and back, and re-advertised. Not re-advertised, say freshly advertised.
News to them, which meeting were you referring to, the last meeting? The one
That was
before,
not,
and the
yes.
committee.
I think the issue is that what some of us thought was in the minutes from the previous triennium appears that it wasn't in the minutes. And that's where the misunderstanding is, I believe. But yeah, I also thought that.
Yeah, my understanding was it was to
it
be
should have been
brought
in the
back,
minutes.
Well, it's very clear.
an alternative, and it was to be presented to the group.
Correct. And it hasn't been presented to the councillors at all, it's been advertised instead at a time when we're supposed to be looking at constrained budgets. And here we are advertising for a brand new management position.
Yeah, it's a position that was within council
Regardless.
previously.
It was a split, this was a split vote at our last, at the council meeting in committee 2 meetings ago. And it was a very robust discussion.
Sorry, Leslie.
So I just want to point out that the reports regarding that position were actually brought to a confidential session.
Yes, yes, actually, thank you for that, Leslie. So yes, this conversation should be as such as well with that, because we are actually reaching those, that meeting and a record of such.
Well, we're not breaching anything with respect to your worship. I'm asking a question about a position that's been publicly advertised and closes, I believe, tomorrow for a new management position. Not breaching in committee, asking a question. Why wasn't it brought back to council?
The resolution, your worship, did not require it to be brought back to council as far as I recall.
Well, I think, through your worship, I think that's been a little bit cute, because the intent of that resolution very clearly was that we weren't happy with the resolution. And the only alternative was to bring back, no, sorry, not the alternative. The only way of breaking that impasse was to bring back an alternative for us to consider.
I think there could be a bit of disparity between what was actually agreed on and what the, I won't say instruction, because again, it was brought to us first off out of the no surprises and also keeping us informed. So what we will do is go back for some clarification on what was discussed and what any resolutions that could have been passed, may have been passed, were passed, and the wording of such. So
Maybe through your worship, maybe other councillors could rack their brains as to that discussion, because I'm pretty clear on it.
Yeah.
Leslie.
Oh,
So,
I
can I
was
just
asking the
remind you
councillors.
that-
Yes, I know, and I'm just going to.
Can I just remind you that this report is about the monthly financials, so Cody's here to talk about that. He's not, he can't answer any of these questions. This is what he's here to answer.
And just as a follow-up to that too, is that yes, you've raised a point from an element of that report, but in saying that, that is not what Cody's report is about. You're asking for clarification on points, and if you're wanting such, I think we'll bring that back for clarification at the next meeting, so we can discuss that further, so that the right answers can be there, or not the right answers, the answers relevant to the information that you're referring to are there, because you're making reference to meetings and reports that need to be clarified.
That's two different things. One, your worship, was that the previous council did have a motion on the books that there was a moratorium on new positions that had to be brought back to the council.
That point, if I can, is in question about
That's
the
what I'm-
moratorium.
Yes, you're saying that that's in question, and I disagree with that. I mean, not that important. But the other point was that of the position that has now been advertised. And that's before us right now.
Right, and I thank you, you've made your point very crystal clear, and we will go back for clarification on the record of those meetings.
Well,
We will not be going into this any more depth to what has been.
Why can't the other councillors just say now what the resolution was at that discussion.
Your worship.
Sorry, no,
Through your worship,
Your worship, I support.
Just 1 minute, please. I've got councillor Burton speaking.
Yes.
I'd suggest that we instruct staff to do a check on the recordings from those meetings, and come
Exactly.
back with some factual information, not running around the room,
Yes.
who can remember what.
Yes, and I fully support that, and I agree with that recommendation. This is going to go nowhere, and yes, I know you're supporting that, councillor.
Your worship, I haven't finished. I recollect, and it's on the minute, being out to support, but,
Yes, that's fine, and I knew that that's your comment. We're not going to go around the table at this point in this meeting and look for that and start witch hunting. I'll make that crystal clear.
this
The
is not
point
which, the worship,
The
this
point
is
has
not
been
which.
made crystal clear that first and foremost, we need clarification on the discussion within that meeting, and that is what we will be seeking first and foremost. We will not be entering into a debate without clarification on that information.
Not a witch hunt.
I'm sorry, but we will not be proceeding any further without clarification on what was discussed and what points were clarified.
What about the ad, what about the ad that's going close tomorrow?
For that position, that's been advertised. This is the problem we've got. We've got two different aspects to this discussion that's currently before us. One is what was recorded at previous meetings. One was in a meeting that was previous to this council. So we're talking historical comments, which we only have with 3 councillors here that can comment on that. But again, it's by memory, recall. That is one point. The other point is what was discussed at that meeting, which was in confidential, regarding the appointment of that position and what was regarded as being essential to come back to council or not with the appointment or position of that role, which has been advertised. So there's 2 points there we need to have clarified before we take this any further, from my perspective.
So we can, that'll run, but no decision will be made on that appointment until later. Is that right? So if anybody applies, we'll just hold it. Is that what we're going to do? We're going to hold it until this is sorted out. That's what I'm taking from
That
it.
was my question also, councillor, thank you, yeah.
I think we need to verify the actual conversation, the resolution, before that appointment is confirmed.
Your worship, I'll happily hold that position until that's clarified.
Thank you, Simon. Is everybody in agreement to that position?
Thank you.
Do I have agreement around the table that that is acceptable?
Can that be minuted?
Thank you.
Do you think we need to move a motion that we instruct staff to review that?
Yeah, I think so, and that will be what we will do next. So, my apologies, Cody.
I do have one more for you before you go,
Coming to
Cody.
your report.
There's not a wasted thing in there.
Right, so what we will do is finish your report and then we will put together the position going forward from this other discussion. So my apologies, Cody, very much. Councillor Casson, if you'd like to finish Cody's report.
Page 23 again, Cody, last bullet point under other expenses, section 9. Unbudgeted emergency works for construction of a water franchise wastewater treatment pond, 202k. Can you clarify that 202k is the total cost of that project, or is that with the transfer of the seals and anything off it?
I don't think that's a question that Cody can answer about the total cost. I think it's more district asset.
Could somebody please confirm 202 is the total cost of the project, or the total cost to us as council in cash to pay outside of the transfer of other funds?
I will come back and confirm that because we did get a transfer to funding for that wall.
If you could please, thank you.
Yeah.
So was the report brought to council for that unfunded expenditure?
Yeah, well aware of that, just want to confirm that.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, thank you. I'm just trying to get the motion worded that is going to be asked to put forward.
Thank you, Cody, for your report, by the way. There's a few more questions than usual.
Yeah, this
so
is,
the second one
this is
was-
punishment for all the weeks that was, I think,
Clarification on the finance. Okay. So, thank you, Cody, very much. I do appreciate that. And before we just close off on acknowledging your presentation and receiving your report, we just need to formulate the motion that has been put forward. So the motion before editing is instruct the CE to research previous minutes of the previous council as to the moratorium placed on employment of staff within council.
Can that include recording?
Sorry?
Can that include the recording of the meeting?
Minutes and recordings.
Minutes and recordings. Okay. Point 2 is the confidential meeting, clarification of the position of council as to the position that was discussed at the time. Is everybody happy with that?
And that's the regular recording.
Yes?
Minutes and recordings.
Minutes and recording.
I just want to make sure I've got all this
Yes.
wording right, so I can go. Instruct the CE to research minute and recording of previous meeting.
Do you want to read it out so they can hear?
Oh, sorry. Instruct the CE to research minutes and recordings of previous meetings to confirm moratorium on employment of senior staff. And 2, confidential meeting to clarify.
The confidential meeting held.
Yeah.
The minutes of the confidential meeting held on. Same again, minutes of recording of the confidential meeting held. Clarification on the position taken by council. Yes, yeah.
And it was discussed at 2
Yep.
as well.
To clarify the position, it was, you can tidy it up, but yeah, in the confidential meeting held to clarify the position taken by council on employment of senior staff member for clarification. Yep, thank you. Right,
Can we include holding off on any appointment until this has been done?
yes, and that was the third point of it, was that
Recruitment on hold.
recruitment on hold. Right, so the motion is, and yes, for that role.
Well, yeah, depending on the outcome of the research.
Okay, so the motion is instruct the CE to research minutes and recordings of previous meetings to confirm moratorium. Minutes and recording of previous meetings. This is from the previous triennium. So not this triennium, it's from the council in the previous triennium too. So minutes and recording of previous meetings to confirm moratorium on employment of senior staff. It's not quite right as far as accuracy goes.
To confirm existence or not.
Yes, to confirm existence of or not moratorium on employment of senior staff. Thank you, Councillor Pearson, that's bang on for that.
Was it senior staff or new staff?
I don't know whether you clarify, but what new positions? On employment of new positions. Because there's confusion obviously on whether it was specific or generalised, so we'll make it of new positions to get that.
Either the discussion exists or it doesn't exist.
Sorry?
Either the discussion exists or it doesn't.
Yes, well, that's what we're going to get with the clarification in a minute. So point 1 is minutes and recordings of previous meetings to confirm existence of non-existence of moratorium on employment of new positions taken by the previous council. Minutes and recording of confidential meeting held to clarify the position taken by council on employment of senior staff member. And recruitment on hold for the senior staff role currently advertised. Is everybody happy with the content of that motion?
Through your worship, of the reviewing the minutes and recordings regarding the community services management position. That was over 2 meetings.
Yes, so we are,
Or just 1 meeting.
No, but we haven't referred to it as one meeting, we're looking at the minutes.
Fine.
Yes, we're looking at the clarification on content of that at whatever meetings they were held at and discussed.
Yes, it must have been.
So the staff will look through that, yeah.
We can review.
Yes, so staff will look through that. So is everybody happy with that for the motion, or would you like that reread? Everybody happy with that? Everybody's clear on that? Right, can I have a move and a seconder, please, for that motion? Councillor Durbin, thank you very much. Councillor Gillette, all in favour? Yes? Carried, thank you, everybody. Right, to Cody, thank you for that. Yes. Sorry, I'm just about to receive his report. So with that, can I have a move and a seconder, please, and resolve that Cody's presentation be received? Thank you, Councillor Phelps, Councillor Kesson. All in favour? Thank you, Terry. Thanks, Cody.
Thank you.
Right, representation review. Leslie, please. I'm just going to show you.
Afternoon, here to present the representation review, a legal requirement every 6 years. I take the report as read.
Any questions for Leslie, please? Yes.
Through your worship, I just wonder whether we should touch the brakes a little on this and give the community the opportunity to say whether or not they want a community board, rather than us deigning that a community board is necessary. It may be, for instance, that the Glacier Townships and maybe Wataroa together, which would have a sizable population, might decide that they, given the challenges that they're facing, they might decide that the community board is the way that they go, and they're prepared to pay a target rate for that. Maybe. We don't know.
Through the chair, that's what the review's for. It goes out for consultation, so anybody can submit.
Also, okay, I was looking at the recommendation, which was that we don't have a community boards, and the status quo remains, which I don't agree with.
So just clarification on that. Those recommendations, it still goes out for consultation.
It goes out for consultation. This is what this is about.
So will that be advertised for consultation?
Sorry?
Advertised for consultation.
It will be advertised, yes. Yes, we have a legal requirement.
So we're just agreeing that that's the legal option or the preferred option?
Yeah.
Yes, so yes, as Councillor said, we're confirming what we think, but it goes out for consultation for the final.
It has to go out, you legally have to go out for consultation.
Does it have to have a preferred option?
I would believe it would have to, because we have to show that we have had a discussion on that or whatever, and what our
You have to
intention is.
resolve on, it's like an annual plan, you have to resolve on a draft annual plan going out for consultation or an LTP. So this is just the same thing.
And again, it comes back from consultation for further discussion, but we're making a recommendation for the public to consider, based on the information that's there, and they've got just as much entitlement to come back and say, actually, we challenge this, we would like this.
As long as the community is clear that there hasn't actually been subject to a discussion around the table, just
It's a recommendation going forward for them to consider. Yes.
So it's the same process as it's been for every 6 years for many years.
Maybe more than 6 years.
It is actually in the report, so I don't think it's an engagement.
Yes.
Sorry, an engagement is necessary, so it's
Yes.
quite clear.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Gleed. Councillor Neal.
And so with the consultation, there'll be figures attached as to what it would be likely to cost for a community board?
For a community board.
I don't know what that.
I don't really know what that would be, because a lot of that depends on the remuneration authority. But I have had a discussion with the electoral officer, Anthony Morton, and he suggested don't go down a community board route. It would be very expensive. He says they're very difficult to manage, because you get members of the community in, and then they don't want to do it. So then you have to get someone else, so then they don't want to do it, and he said it's very difficult to manage.
I understand that totally, but will there be something given so that people in the community can then make an informed?
I don't think they can make a decision on that based on cost.
No, you're looking at that, you're looking at your line of interest that you based on potential income that you could receive from it. You want that genuine
And as we say
representation
here,
first.
you know, we have community associations that we are constantly involved with. You mostly go to their meetings, they come back to us.
Yeah.
And that is a much better option than having community groups. I mean, there will be more admin work. We'll need more staff because we'll need admin staff to take minutes and run those meetings. So there will be more costs involved, of course.
Councillor Phelps.
Through your worship, I think West Coast has got enough local body politicians as it is, and I think with about one councillor per 1,000 residents, I think.
Correction on my maths earlier, Patrick, 1 to 913.
Well,
There you go.
be that as it may, I think we're sufficiently governed as it is, and I don't think adding another layer of bureaucracy or local politicians would do a lot for anyone, frankly. So, yeah, and as was alluded to, I think we've got regionally motivated community groups and all those other fantastic things, so, yeah.
Thank you.
That said, and definitely personally agree with 1 to 913 being roughly excessive when Christchurch councils are around 1 to 25,000. Jane's point remains unanswered. There is a cost, and the remuneration authority will be able to give us a cost based on those heads of population to run community boards. If we're consulting on that, is there not a need to put in the financial implication of if you vote in favour or suggest in favour of establishing community boards?
You can make up a figure if you like.
Well, yeah, to make up a figure. The remuneration authority could give us that figure.
I don't know what the figure is.
There's a cost, all those members are paid.
It'll be dependent on how many members. There'll be, obviously, if you're doing community boards around the country, the district, you will need to, there'll be mileage costs. We'll need a new person to do the administration, so we'll have to get a staff member to do that. So there's a cost on that. I don't know what the cost will be.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that point? If not, we will move on to.
Do we have to vote on an option?
Well, the resolution is that A, that the report be received, and B, that council resolve to retain the current representation arrangements, which is no change to the total number of councillors, and retain the 3 wards, Northern, Hokitika and Southern, and that the councillors are elected by the electors of 2 or more wards, and the council does not establish community boards.
I'll move it.
Thank you, councillor Phelps. The seconder, councillor Glett. Thank you very much. All in favour? Against?
About it going out.
No,
Out to the community.
Use the consultation because
It's in section 7.
the recommendation of through worship, the recommendation 4 is the council considers whether further consultation is necessary.
I would assume it's a legislative requirement to be at.
Well, that's what we're told. Clause 4 of the recommendation doesn't say that.
Well, shall we chuck on a 4.1.5 for the consultation?
2.5.
You can just say it's
There's
already.
another bit on there then that you could add another part to the resolution that says that council instructs staff to carry out a consultation as per the
Yes.
Local Government Electoral Act.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
2.5.
2.5. Thank you, Leslie, for that.
Leslie, can you please
Would you please repeat that for Penny? Council instructs staff to carry out
Consultation as per the Local Government Electoral Act.
Right, okay, thank you, Leslie. Right, so again, move the seconder, please, for the resolution that A, the report be received. 2, the council resolve to retain the current representation arrangements as noted before with the addition of point 2.5, which is council instructs staff to carry out a consultation as per the Local Government Electoral Act. Right, mover of seconder is still Councillor Phelps and Councillor Glett. Thank you very much. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Leslie. So next we move on to the amalgamation of Western Holdings Limited with Destination Western Limited. Leslie.
I'll take the report as read and answer any questions.
I've got a question here. Can I talk about coming back to council, and there's going to be an independent chair? How much is that?
I don't know what I mean. It will be similar to a director's fee, I would assume.
Cheaper than the board? Yeah. Okay. So, when you say no idea, but you said it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah, there's 3 directors in Western Holdings at the moment.
So you have some idea of the indirect independent chair at all?
Well, I believe Western Holdings brought up a report to council and stated that they told you what their director fees were.
Yes.
And that they were under the market rate, so it's going to be somewhere above that for one of them, and market rate.
Okay, which is roughly.
I don't know.
And we have actually had this discussion before at a meeting regarding this situation and options there.
So can we have a number?
What is the relevance of that? Sorry,
Just because.
If I were a gambling man tanker, I would say somewhere between $50,000 to $100,000.
Well, thank you.
It'll be less than the 3 directors.
Thank you.
That's for sure.
Thank you. That's all.
Right, okay. So any questions for Leslie, please? No questions? Everybody's quite happy with the report and the contents of? Right. So, the resolution is that the report be received, that council receives the submissions, that council resolves to amalgamate Western Holdings Limited and Destination Western Limited as of 30th June 2024, that council resolves to instruct staff to engage with local government funding agency to take the Western Holding debt, and instruct the boards of Western Holding and Destination Westland, to undertake a short form amalgamation as at 30th of June 2024. Can I have a move and second, please, to that to Councillor Elliott, Councillor Phelps, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Leslie, very much for that. Right. Yeah, point of order. Everybody, please. Point of order, please. Right, moving on, we now have, I did say Jan, please, for the Guy Menzies window repairs, please. Jan, Minings Facilities and Properties Manager. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So I've just got the report for the Guy Menzies window replacement. So the windows on the northern side of the wall was in dire need of replacement. The Harry Community Association seek funding from or additional contribution from Western District Council to replace those windows. There was no budget or money allocated towards that. However, there's a reserve fund with $1,497 allocated for the Guy Menzies Hall, to which they requested if we could allocate this money towards the replacement of the windows, which was a total of $8,934.
Happy to move that?
I'll probably second
You probably can't.
You probably can't, actually. So, moved by Councillor Pearson, seconded by Councillor Beard. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried with the abstention of Councillor Madeira due to a conflict with being the chairman of the committee. Harry. Thank you very much, Jan, for that. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. I'll fix you up later.
Right. So, moving on, we now have the late agenda item, which is the annual local government LGNZ membership subscription, which Simon will lead the report on that, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, councillors and your worship again. This is obviously a follow-on from the conversation we had with LGNZ representation this morning. We have received an invoice for the 24-25 subscription year. And obviously conversations previously regarding LGNZ membership has obviously been raised almost annually. So I'm asking council to confirm its direction on whether they wish to retain that membership, and then B is pay the subscription as accordingly. To you, councillor.
I'd like everybody to, I know we've discussed this before, but just have a really, you've met with Susan and you've met with Sam, who's the president. We are in different times to what previous councils have been at as far as our responsibility in local government. We're in for more difficult times as far as costs, issues, changes of regulations from the government and whatever else is to come our way. As much as sometimes when like Sexy and myself or the Deputy Mayor have been to some of these, we sometimes find the content has been lagging. I think some of that's been while they've been trying to find out their way as far as the direction from this new government. I've spent quite a bit of time not getting to the conference in Wellington last week. I've spent quite a bit of time trying to get around other mayors. Because networking with everybody is very easy because everybody's very approachable, contactable. Just trying to get a gauge on going forward with membership. A lot of other councils are concerned about the cost, especially with the Kona being built into it. I've gone over the information and the education that's available on Kona, and it is good. It is actually very good if you peel back and get into it, plus access the other tools that are available behind what is just first on your screen when you go into that site. There's a lot of advocacy work to be done with this government. There's a lot of direction, there's a lot of way forwards that we need to be communicating with our fellow councils around the country as well. So, for me, where I was sitting on my perspective of this leadership, well, I have changed, I have to be honest with that. I'm a little bit worried that if we put ourselves outside of the tent, we can find ourselves quite isolated, especially when it comes down to the advocacy work that's going to have to be done with this government going forward. We're rather small to be isolating ourselves and excluding ourselves from a lot of the discussions that do happen at these conferences, and I would be the first to say, as far as, I think Ashley would back me on this, as far as respect to the areas on the coast as in Bulla, Bray and Westland, and respecting our input and our sentiment and comments, they do look to us for that input, because it's not just about the cities, it's very much about the regions, no matter what size they are. So, yeah, my sentiments to this membership has changed from what it was previously, because I have given it some serious thought, and I've also done a lot of investigative work as far as what I've been reading, but also the conversations I've had. So with that, everybody's got the report. I'll open it up for discussion. Paul.
Through your worship. So I would say that despite the charm offence of Shannon from LGNZ, I would take the invoice for $62,000 and return to sender.
Just before you proceed with that, you weren't here for the presentation, so it's a bit harsh to pass comment on or imply what that presentation was.
It was on Teams.
Yes, but they spoke.
Well, yeah, but regardless, I can imagine what they spoke, but regardless, that was a closed meeting for a start. Yeah, but and it was clearly a charm offensive. They know that the council is wavering as to whether or not to continue their membership. And at a time like this, well, there's never a better time to review a budget than now. And I'm reminded of a long-serving mayor from our nearest neighbour council, who in his 20 years at the council, Grey District Council, refused to go to LGNZ conferences because they were a waste of time. They'll just talk festival and achieve nothing. All the talk about networking, etc., the networking that needs to be done on the West Coast among councils on the West Coast. And we can do that without contributing the equivalent of what we have denied the Regent Theatre, for instance. That whole argument about the Regent Theatre is more like an arms. A community group run by volunteers, and here we are on the other hand, looking to renew a membership with something that's of what benefit to the ratepayers. That would be hard to define, and I think it would be really quite raw. And while I'm at it, I might add that I think the council was wrong to have sent that letter to the Regent Theatre and the other community groups and saying you don't.
We're not discussing that at the moment, thank you, councillor. We're not discussing that. We're not. We're not getting into that discussion. We are talking about our position with LGNZ. So if you could please stick to that focus and leave other comments out.
Well, with respect, Your Worship, that letter was addressed to the mayor, councillors and Iwi reps, and we didn't get a chance to
Excuse me,
reply.
we're not discussing that at this point in the meeting. We're discussing our membership with LGNZ, and if we can stick to that, please, it would be greatly appreciated, probably not just by me, but everybody else at the table. Thank you. Councillor Beard.
Through your worship, the invoice is actually, to clarify, it's 47,000, not 62.
Yes, sorry, if I can clarify that, it's 47,000 from the invoice for LGNZ, and the report says add another 15,000 on there for attendance at conferences and flights, etc. It's $62,000 is the cost to ratepayers. A pretty raw expectation.
Right. Councillor Manera.
I just want to see what Simon.
This is not an operational decision, it's very much a governance decision. The report very clearly identifies the work we've done with them in the past and what they can offer. So I'll leave it to the governance team to make a decision on.
Every time you can contact them for support or
So
advice?
we use them quite often in terms of advice, particularly around legislative advice. And they also support us. We don't have the resources to write submissions on every piece of legislation that comes through. We generally rely on them supporting local government in general in terms of our submission processes. If there's a nuance that's definitely West Coast related, we'll definitely put our front foot forward as a West Coast point of view, which we do generally is with our cousins up north.
Just a question for Simon. Normally the mechanism for that is I've just seen submissions in the past from the likes of the Men's Cheers and Iwi's Forum or the joint West Coast Council submissions on certain things. I've seen that in the past.
Yes, yeah. It's still predominantly the case we do it as a joint submission for the West Coast. Unless there's a Westland directly impacted one, we try to make it a consensus across the West Coast.
You generally workshop on that, don't you? Like
Yes,
pull the right
yes,
things together.
yes, we do. And often communication with LGNZ regarding that as well. Sometimes their templates assist a lot of the councils around the country with some of that as well. While they're not worded exactly for us, they are an assistance with that.
Yeah, as you can imagine, as we know, this is going on with every council.
Yeah.
Some are keeping in touch, some are staying in. I've always been of the view that as long as one council's in, so, why aren't we talking to the other councils and going, okay, you're in, let's support your fund, let's support funding at a tiny portion of what it is now to get the advocacy on the coast.
Yes.
All of us don't need to be in this thing. As long as one's in it, we're fine. So we should be talking to the others and going, who wants to put their hand up? And we support the funding of it and the rest get out.
I mean, the most appropriate would be the regional council because that covers all three.
They don't belong.
districts. No, I'm aware of that, but I'm just saying.
We kick them out the door for the funding. But so someone should do it. You know what I mean? Like, so all don't need to be in this thing. Waste of money.
And on that, Buller Council are part of it. The can you update us on
Great
their
arguing
position?
about the same thing. We're all in the same boat.
Yes, they are.
Buller's in,
Yes.
right? So Buller's in. So go knock your socks off. Let's support them and just get them doing the advocacy for the coast. It's just, I believe it's too much money for this region to go into that organisation.
Especially if you extrapolate that out to 3 regions, then you're talking a sizable chunk of money. All 3 belong and sign up to all that in its entirety, which is quite find a good fact on that one.
But
Yeah.
Francois, do you mean we have a discussion with Gray and Buller, and we say, look, normally if we all do it, it's gonna cost 150 grand. Let's just one of it do it, and we'll give you 15 grand.
Whoever the smallest one is, let's all contribute to that one, right?
It's just like paying for a shared Netflix
Yes, it
subscription.
It's actually 180,000 to take the 62, isn't it? So,
Exactly. So,
yeah.
so
It's nice.
we can end up paying 10 grand or whatever, right?
That's a good option.
It is.
If I may, I've never met a lobbyist or a trade unionist that couldn't argue for the relative sort of merits of joining their organisation, myself included. But nonetheless, I don't think local government New Zealand is going to collapse in the next year. I would say that in recent years, I think they, with the previous regime up in Beehive, they got a bit pushy, and I would say we're probably closer to the organisation they were meant to be lobbying against rather than the councils they were actually meant to be advocating on behalf of. I think some of those issues that were a concern previously are no longer there. I don't think they'll collapse and curl up and shrivel and die if we withhold membership for 1 year, given that we're trying to save as much money as we can, and that every dollar that we're spending is coming out of the ratepayer's pocket. I'd say withhold our subscription for this year, and if they look like they've improved upon their performance in the next 12 months, maybe reconsider in 12 months' time, but it's not something that we're chiseling into stone for eternity if we decide not to be members for the coming year and not pay the current invoice. So that would be the way that I would lean, frankly. And I do agree with Paul, as much as I support all the other spending reductions that we're making, it's pretty hard to look people in the eye and say, by the way, no one's stopped me in the last 12 months and said, I'll make sure we keep up our LGNZ subscription. I don't think I've had a single ratepayer ever say that to me. In fact, the majority haven't even heard of LGNZ. So,
It doesn't mean they're not valuable.
no, it doesn't mean they're not valuable, but that and the basis that I actually don't think they are that valuable. Yeah, I'd say something that we can definitely afford to do without for the next 12 months, and therefore I think we should, on the basis that we're making a lot of other necessary but nonetheless unpopular cuts. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents worth on that.
We have received the first point of invoicing as far as we then have to send the paperwork back to be officially invoiced for payment, so it is that time. So is it a matter of councillors feel it's a matter of saying that thank you, but no thank you, or do we go and have that say that we want a month's reprieve while we have a discussion with the other councillors, or do we just simply say no and then have that discussion with the councillors and say this is where we're going?
So it was just something I just wanted to add. We've also got the Mayors Chairs and Area Forum, which serves as a reasonably effective West Coast collective, and $62,000 for networking and all of that. Well, we've got emails and we've got phones and we're capable of talking to other mayors and councils around the country without having to pay $62,000 a year. That's just another point that I would make as well. But, yeah.
Thank you. So sentiment around the table? Councillor Peck?
Yeah, I think we have to be consistent. We've made some tough calls and getting flack for it. And should add that I think that the region funding's suspended, not cancelled.
It's about the consultation, yes, we've got to be crystal clear on that, rather than actually paying something that's not there.
Charities returns, they are profitable. But nevertheless, I support the sentiment of both Council, Iwi Management and Francois.
So direction, Council? Councillors?
And like, I'll make a motion that we don't pay membership for the coming year if anyone wants to second that. Yep.
Is that the formal motion, or would you like to add in a conjunction to that, in that we have opened up a discussion with the other councils as far as having a combined representation at LGNZ?
I think we should just do that anyway. I don't think it needs to be part of a formal motion. I think we should not have to document it. I think it's common sense that we carry on.
Through your worship, that could be done through Mayors Chairs, and I don't think LGNZ would be averse to rejoining any time.
No.
It doesn't have to be just because I've seen that request.
If I may ask,
but also I'll just comment that it's hard to also forget the treachery of Three Waters. Speaking of these commented about submissions.
Have we challenged the cost with them?
I imagine the rate's the rate, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The rate's the rate. There's no leeway on that, but
They have a
of
very
course,
complicated formula to
yeah,
work it
and
out.
of course the code has been added in, which is a larger chunk of that cost as well.
If I may as well, just out of curiosity, these, not junkets, forums, networking events, whatever you want to call them, that they have, Are they simply, you're either in the club or you're not, or do they have a higher rate if you're not a member and you just wish to go
No,
along?
if you're not a member, you're not a member.
Okay.
You're not privy to any kind of advice, guidance, steerage or representation at
No, it's
all.
right, I'm curious.
The door is shut.
I'd probably interrupt that junket comment and say the two I've been to have been highly valuable for me as a newly elected member, as a young elected member, so I see value in what they deliver in those things. Helen's had troubles over her couple of visits on some of the things they've discussed and how they've been, but yeah,
Not all of them.
I see value in them.
Yeah, there is value, certainly there is value in some of them.
Before and apologise on.
I just want to put my point across.
I think the biggest thing is while we've been waiting for direction from the government, yeah, there's been fill in there which hasn't been probably what I would classify as spectacular, but certainly now, as to their presentation this morning, there's a lot of advocacy work to go on, and I think there will be some merit coming forward. But we still potentially possibly get some gains out of that.
I've asked a question of them in the past around what that looks like should councils as a whole decide not to join as the individual memberships and stuff, and we've done some very early doors work on that, but nothing sort of too serious around that should.
Like an individual council?
There isn't, no, it's council by council now,
Yeah.
but obviously if half the councils in the country say no, I'm sure they're going to relook at how they do membership individually or not, sort of thing, so there could be options like that in the future for those that do see value in the organisation.
Right, so with the report, sorry Jane.
Ashley, what's your position on?
So on the committee of the young elected members, so that's one of the three committees of LGNZ.
And so would you still be able to do that?
So that's how my
We quit, you're out.
Well, if you're not a member by default as being part of a member council, then that's how the opening came up for me and Claire's recently. So the two Auckland representatives, one on the community board and one as an at-large representative, both had to vacate out of those roles because of Auckland's decision not to be a part of the organisation. So that would be
So Ashley will have to relinquish his position on the board as well.
Paying membership. What with his deputy membership?
May I add that it's all of my deputy European support, so
Right.
whilst I'm passionate
Just
about
one,
that.
sorry, this is an actual
Councillor
question
Space.
through the chair of worship or whatever. The Councils for Local Democracy was a bit of a splinter group that was established as a result of people not being satisfied with local government in New Zealand, is that right?
Under one topic.
Yeah, under one topic, but yeah, I mean, was that not born out of the fact that they weren't sort of seen to be acting on behalf of at least some of the councils around the country?
Yes, it was, because.
I mean, that was filling a
Yes,
vacuum basically
yes.
that people felt.
They could not speak, there was two different beliefs on pathways as far as the three woods went. And local government took one at one angle, and the creation of C4LD came to birth out of that and drove the other angle, which is where we're at now with the government. Third way forward with Three Waters. So yes, you're quite right. And C4LD is still there, and it is still prepared to take up anything that needs to be taken up, not just to do with the waters going forward. It's open for any other topic and issue that comes along that needs to be addressed if there's not agreements around the table collectively with LGNZ.
Because I do think something worth bearing in mind is that for us it's 60-ish thousand both membership and the associated travel event. And roughly speaking, if you were to say that was the case for the other three councils on the coast, that would be about $250,000 a year. That is a bit of resource or bandwidth to draw on for relevant policy submissions or things that might be peculiar to sort of West Coast Inc, if you like. So I just think that's something to factor in as well as in-house resource that can be put towards those things. But yeah.
Right.
Supplementary question, what's the funding model for C4LD? Do we financially contribute towards them?
Is there even a funding model or just a regular?
Just councillor said please, and water control.
Originally, council paid, I think, $10,000 to be a member of C4LD. Yeah, from the last conversations where there's still some funds in reserve for that entity. They haven't asked for any further contribution. And we are still a member of the original.
Through your worship, that of course, that splinter group, if you like, arose directly from that treachery over Three Waters, where LGNZ wrote that they were in collusion with the previous government.
Well, that's your interpretation, and we need to focus on what we're talking about here. So getting back to what we're here to address and finalise on, without going around the table, do I take it then that option 2 is on the table, which is receive the report and advise LGNZ that Western District Council are withdrawing from membership and the invoice will not be paid?
I'll move that.
with the reasoning that's in 8.2.1 and 8.2.2. I'm going to move and second place to that. Councillor Phelps, Councillor Glett, all in favour, and I would like a show of hands on this, please.
I'm a bit doubtful, but.
Doubtful, right, against? Councillor Casson?
Can't vote twice.
And Councillor Booth?
No, sorry, I was.
Just Councillor Casson. Thank you. Right, so the direction is to the CE, to Simon, is that we received the report and advised LNG said that Western District Council are withdrawing from membership and the invoice will not be paid. So, thank you very much, Simon. And we'll move and second it on that late agenda item, so there's, thank you, Simon, very much for that. Resolution to go into the public excluded. Can I have a move and a second for that, please? Councillor Baird, Councillor Phelps, thank you very much. So while we move into that section of the meeting, we will